The storytelling aspect there is just the humanization of the brand from the perspective of where did this brand start? Why is it trying to meet this need? How has it met that need? And here's how its impact has kind of made its ripple effects, right, on its clients, et cetera.
Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renee Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. Hey, you wild women. My next guest is a mom of four, the co-founder of StoryWell, and a strategic marketing partner dedicated to helping you navigate the ever-changing digital landscape and achieve long-term success. Jessica is on a mission to make her dreams of a six-figure brand a roaring success. She has one rule: work from home without missing out on family time and the joys of her 8-acre farm. In only 3 years, she doubled her revenue by getting super niche and helping lifestyle brands soar online while building those real, genuine connections. Guided by her gut feelings, smart strategies, and some killer communication, she sprinkles in a bit of magic into every brand she touches. Her journey from South Africa to Belgium and now Canada gives every project a unique edge. In this episode, we chat about the importance of storytelling and creating a brand essence, how to make things more exciting by way of a beautifully crafted story, and how any business can extract and amplify an attention-grabbing brand story. Please welcome the incredible Jessica Marola.
Hi, so happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Are you in BC too?
I am, yes.
Whereabouts?
I'm on the Sunshine Coast. Not an island, though, not an island.
It's so beautiful up there. What is considered the Sunshine Coast in BC?
So the Sunshine Coast is the strip of land that comes off the sea to sky, and it's basically inaccessible by any kind of vehicle. So we have to take a ferry to come out this way, and it spans all the way from Gibsons to Egmont, so where the connection goes through to Powell River. So that whole stretch of land, I think there's about 35,000 people here, about 4 different communities. And yeah, so that's what consists of the Sunshine Coast.
Well, and is it really sunny?
It is actually blaringly hot.
Vancouver is like always raining. And I always think it's so close to Vancouver, but it's not. We were just up there in Squamish and Whistler a couple weeks ago. And I know that's not Sunshine Coast, but that's the closest I was to you a couple weeks ago. And it's so beautiful out there. It's like a whole other world.
Yes, it's stunning. I think every time I come home from Vancouver on the ferry and I just look out over the water and I know I'm coming home, there's a sense of awe and relief and mountains around in the water. And we're 2 minutes to the water where we are right now. It's just stunning. You know, we go paddleboarding every day. We take the kids to the beach at least 3-4 times a week. There's parks surrounding you. It's really beautiful.
That's beautiful. There's something about nature and being close to water too. I know they've done studies with this where people that live close to water where they can see it every day actually are happier people. So that's why you think about all the countries that are adjacent to a water source are usually the most populated parts of the country.
Yes, it's so true.
If you're tuning into this episode live, tomorrow, October 25th, is my Preloaded Marketing Year Workshop. It's a free live online event that starts at 9 a.m. PST. The point of this series and this workshop is to teach you everything you need to know to create a sustainable marketing plan, to not sprinkle in all the things you think you need to be doing, but to actually choose the right marketing channels that are going to help you with your business. So in this free workshop, you're going to learn things like emerging trends in digital marketing, the free tools to crush your year, the importance of planning ahead, how to create a 2024 marketing calendar, key timelines and annual themes, how to implement effective work-back schedules, and some free tools that I've been working on for years. So all you have to do is go to wewildwomen.com/workshop. That's wewildwomen.com/workshop to grab your seat today. Okay, well, let's dive into this because we have a lot to talk about in a short amount of time. But I'd love to know, what do you do and who do you do it for?
So I do white glove, full service, fractional marketing for lifestyle brands, specifically in the real estate, tourism, medical aesthetics niches. Basically, white glove just means that it's done for you. And so brands approach us and they say, we need an in-house CMO, we need all hands on board, but we're not willing to hire an employee because we need a little bit more diversity in terms of skill set or expertise. And our collective, which is majority female, can do everything. So that's why many brands come to us for the support, because they don't want to hire 10 employees. But if they can come to one source to do everything, then it's a savings both financially and then, of course, with everything else surrounding employment and things like that.
Do you have a co-founder or is it just you?
It's just me.
Oh, okay. And then when did you start this business?
I launched this model in 2019, a couple of days after giving birth to my fourth child. I had just come out of a C-section and I was building a website while trying to pump. And I realized that I couldn't do that sustainably anymore. You know, my 3 other children were grown and at a point where they were getting into school. And here I was starting all over again with a little girl. And I was desperate. And so this idea of a collective came into mind. And so the business has been around since 2016, but it was in 2019 that I decided to launch the collective.
I think I said this on my last podcast, where women tend to either start businesses or move after they have a child. I don't know why. Why do we do this? I remember with Noah, my second, my boys are 11 months apart. We moved into a new home 4 days after he was born. And I was still running a company and I had an 11-month-old. That was just crazy. Why do we do that? Yeah. And then sometimes it's just like, I mean, you've been through at this point like 3 times prior. So you're like, I'm pretty sure I know how this goes in having babies. Still, we always challenge ourselves. Why did you start the business?
Marketing to me, especially from the aspect of storytelling, has been ingrained in me since I was probably about 5. This idea of telling stories which bring joy and surprise and delight, and they engage us to fill needs. And I noticed that in working in this field at a corporate level, that the needs were always being met from a bureaucratic standpoint, or that the marketing was being executed at such a high level that many of the brands that needed that level of service just couldn't access it because the entry level was very high. Most brands can't afford $10,000 to $20,000 a year, or not a year, a month, to market their brands. And I specifically noticed that female-led brands were really struggling, and that the services that they needed would often be executed by individuals that touted that they had a specific skill set but couldn't deliver. And it was upsetting to me because I continued to see brands struggle, and working in the corporate environment where a lot of promises are made, it just didn't feel right for me anymore. Like the synergy wasn't there, and I felt like there wasn't a values alignment. And so I decided I can do this, and I can do this really well, but I want to do it for myself. And I want to come from a place of servant leadership in doing it because I truly have a heart for small business and specifically female-led brands. And so I decided just to freelance. That's where I started. I looked up, Indeed and Bark and all these different platforms that I thought, okay, well, let me just acquire a few clients, get started, get some case studies, and then pivot and pitch as I go along. And it grew just exponentially because when I work with clients specifically, I form a friendship. It becomes a bit more than just a client to provide a relationship. It's an actual friendship. And I really go in deep to a brand and their values and why they exist, what their goals are, why they want to serve and provide their products and services. And so I find my clients really appreciate more of a personal touch versus this very corporate relationship. And so, yeah, that's my why, basically.
I feel like I'm on the same boat. I used to have an agency and they were at the capacity in terms of like how many employees I wanted on the team. And I think it was a good like cadence of hiring and moving up to about 12 employees. And we had some contractors too. And then beyond that, it's like an interesting threshold in an agency world that you typically go over the $1 million a year mark at about 10 to 12 employees. And then it's like when you hit that million, it's like a whole other beast afterwards. And it's actually where a lot of agencies just crumble because they can't. And we crumbled for reasons outside of what's expected and what's normal of an agency crumbling. For me, it was burnout because I had those babies in the same year of launching my agency. And it was also my co-founder leaving. So there was just a lot of things that were just silly. But what I love about what I'm doing now is I took all those years of experience and I really realized who do I want to serve and what do I want to do for them and with them. And let's just do the work. And I don't care what is expected of a PR agency. I don't care what historically traditional ways of doing things. I'm going to change it because I'm going to serve the people that need me. And then we set sail. So you talk a lot about storytelling in your business. And I know when it comes to PR too, that is extremely important. People want to know the story, the why. So why did you start your business? Or the story of like, how did this solve your problem? And it's really crucial when it comes to marketing that we get a pulse of the stories that we share, but also the storytelling of the brand of the business. In your definition, what is storytelling and why is that important for your marketing mix?
Well, my personal definition of storytelling within a brand is the humanization of a brand. I think oftentimes we like to put on lipstick when we market a company. People are tired out of the lipstick, the zhuzhing. We want to add on a filter. We want to seem as a brand like we're bigger than life. And that can be from any level. Oh, that our product volume is so high, or that we have such a huge staff, or that our offices are very clean and put together. And we have these core values that are so aligned with what everyone else is doing. And I find that humanizing a brand is where we come from a place of complete authenticity and we go, you know what? I got stockpiles of boxes in my office and I package everything myself and I ship it out too. And I only have one staff member. And yet here I am doing six figures and it's amazing. And it's critical, I think, for brands today to basically go through a little bit of a renovation when it comes to this idea of perfectionism and that I have to look and feel a certain way in order to exist in this sphere and to thrive in this sphere. And I think for me, especially where things really changed for me was that I decided to start to tell my story a little authentically when I realized that I was always trying to put on this facade. And I'm not going to call it imposter syndrome, but I really wanted people to believe that I was this very large agency and I operated in this specific way. But what I saw was that I alienated my target market as a result of that because they assumed that I was so expensive that they couldn't work with me. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to change it up a little bit and start to reveal what it's really like on the inside. Why do I exist? And why do I want to serve people? And I started talking about the issues that businesses really go through, especially on the side of marketing. And it was really incredible to see people reaching out to me in the DMs and going, wow, that story really touched my heart. I can't believe you spoke from that perspective because I'm struggling with that too. I didn't realize you were. You always seem so put together. And I was like, oh, light bulb moment. So storytelling to me is kind of like the caveat of everything. If we can't tell our stories and we're unwilling to tell our stories, then there's an issue with our posture in business. And at the end of the day, the best brands have incredible stories to tell, whether it's from a founder's level or things that are happening in management from the product and services perspective, what it's like really producing the service or the product, et cetera. So, yeah.
So with Gen Z, if you're marketing to Gen Z, the most important value to a Gen Zer for any brand is authenticity and transparency. And they want to know who's behind the business. They want to know their political views. They'll want to know sometimes to the point if they're vegan. It's the strangest thing that is like, and that's the up and coming demographic. They're going to start to be the ones that are going to be the decision makers in our society because they're going to start, like they're coming out of school. Well, I think they're going into college now, coming out of college, and they're going to start to earn money. And so when they start to earn money, they're driving the economy. And if you're a brand that's trying to just be something you're not, even this is an individual person, it's a problem. Right? Like my parents grew up in the day and age where anybody could say anything. As long as they had an advertising dollar to spend, they could say whatever the hell they want. I mean, we can look at the ads from the 1950s, a dish soap ad where a woman belongs in the kitchen. Here's a soap for your daily tasks. Can you imagine they said that today? They'd be like, done, right away, done. CEO would be fired. And I'm glad things have come along this way. Sometimes I think maybe it's gone a little bit too far. However, you might have an opinion of how a certain demographic or your ideal customer thinks of something. You might agree with it or not. It's still their values. It's still their belief system. And we do have to show up authentically because here's the thing is we know we're imperfect. We're perfectly imperfect humans, which means that when we run businesses and we manage brands, it's the same thing. And it's like you make a mistake, you go and you claim your mistake, and then you tell them how you're going to solve the problem. It's that easy. I was doing pitch following up this morning, and one of the emails that I'd sent was I put the wrong name. And I'm so thorough with my pitches. And I saw that the email had been opened, and I was like, oh my God. So I replied and I put the person's name and I said, I am so sorry. That is my terrible mistake. I did not use your first name. And I don't know what I was thinking that day. I do apologize. This is not a reflection of my client, just so you know. I owned the mistake. And so easy it is to just brush it off, ignore it, and be like, okay, that's just a wasted pitch. No, I went and apologized. And I think that's really important. So how this ties into storytelling is everything. Why is this, though, so important to the marketing mix? You think about all the things we can do as businesses be on every single social platform, right? Start a podcast, go on a podcast tour, do PR. So not only why is it important, where does it fit in? Where do you start the storytelling narrative?
I have to be honest with you, storytelling is a heck of a lot more fun. It makes things much more exciting. It allows for a lot more creative capacity when we're storytelling as well. People can tell when something is inauthentic. They really can. We've become savants when it comes to that kind of stuff. Storytelling, because it's so relatable, we have less fatigue, right? In how we absorb that content. There's so much more relatability. And so we can plug it in from the very start. I mean, you don't wait to storytell midway through a marketing campaign or a strategy. The storytelling starts from the time that you're carving out your brand voice, to your content pillars, to your website, to the whole marketing mix. It goes into absolutely everything. And of course, as part of your brand voice, there's going to be certain words that you use, certain visual cues. As an example of that, there's a client of mine who has a medical aesthetics business, but she has a real passion as well for fashion. And that's really part of who she is. She's a bit of a fashionista, but she loves beauty and she loves medical aesthetics from both the medical standpoint as well as the, of course, aesthetic standpoint. And so she doesn't try to hide the fact that she likes fashion or that she has certain likes within that. She brings it into what she does. So when she's recording her videos or when she's doing something, she's like, oh, and by the way, I'm wearing this today. And this is the reason why I picked it. And you wouldn't believe where I had to look in my closet to find this item, et cetera, et cetera. And people get so darn excited to hear about this story because now it's so relatable to the other individuals who are watching or listening in or whatnot, because they too have this love for fashion just as much as she does. So she really speaks to that ideal audience. And, I think to myself of how many other brands where a founder might have a certain maybe value system or interest in something outside of maybe just their product or service. And they want to hide behind a suit and tie, or they want to look very put together, but it isn't who they are. I'm a farmer, believe it or not. I have 86 chickens sitting outside of my window right now. And we live on 8.5 acres of land, and I'm in the garden all the time. And I don't necessarily try to hide that. Sometimes my Reels videos are of me walking outside in the garden, and then I'm overlaying some text to make it tie into whatever I'm talking about. So I think for most people, I give them permission, especially in working with me, to just be who they are, because it's interesting. And storytelling has this ability to draw in your audience from angles that you're not going to get if you make up stuff.
It's almost easier to tell those authentic stories. Once you get past that threshold of understanding what it is you should share that complements the purpose of using social or your marketing mix. And most of it is identity, right? And once you get past that understanding, like, what do I share and how do I share this? People want those stories. Like, I don't know of a single customer in the last year that hasn't purchased from me because they've already understood me. They buy from me because they know, like, and trust me, and they see my story. And they're like, oh my gosh, her husband just ran a 50K ultra yesterday, and she's traveling to Croatia. And oh, she hurt her shoulder. She dislocated her collarbone because I'm a human being. And there was a time in business where the only thing you ever showed was your business face, right? And we joked before we started how I'm like, I'm wearing a kind of a work shirt on top, but I'm wearing my pajama pants on the bottom right now. And I should just show up in my PJs half the time because at this point now, no one gives a crap what I'm wearing. And sure, there are some brands that do, and it does matter. But for the most part, we're talking about being authentic. That authenticity and storytelling is huge. And it doesn't have to be pajama pants every day, but just give people a glimpse of the real life. And then to them, it's comforting. To them, it's like, I can trust this person because I see this life on the other side of the screen. She has chickens, a lot of chickens. Right? 87 of them? Do they all have names?
Only a few. I've lost count on who is what. But to touch on what you're saying, I mean, this morning I switched tops. I was wearing like this really froofy yellow shirt, and I didn't feel like myself showing up to our chat. So I put on a sweater. And I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted to be myself. I knew that I could speak from a place of authenticity if I looked and felt the way that I like to look and feel, and not trying to impress you or to be something I'm not. And so I think that's extremely important. The other thing too is, let's think of the psychological pressure of inauthenticity or imposter syndrome, or of having to constantly show up in business groomed in a very specific way because bureaucracy in corporate, America or Canada has told us that we need to look specifically like this to be a business owner. I don't know how many women have donned high heels at the expense of their ankles or, their big toe.
Don't tell that to my 4'11" girl.
I'm 5 feet and I just can't. I'm like, no, I did the heels when I worked in an office and I'm done. I don't want to anymore, but.
And so, listen, people love heels, they love heels. And I know there's some women that don't even know how to walk in flat shoes. Like my sister-in-law, Jess, she was 9 months pregnant. She was still wearing like 10-inch heels. Point of the story is that don't let some antiquated way of doing your business tell you how you have to do your business.
Yes, very true. Very true.
And I love that. And thank you for changing your shirt. I basically dress on my mood. I've shown up to these recordings where I literally came off the CrossFit gym floor and I'm sweating and I'm wearing a baseball cap and I'm gross. And I said, but doing CrossFit to me, it was so important and part of my day. It was a non-negotiable. And I realized I had to rush home, have a quick snack and jump on to record a show. No one's ever said anything about how disgusting I looked on that video. I generally tend to show up and like do my makeup and hair because like I enjoy that process too of showing up. It doesn't happen all the time. To move on to another part of this that I think is really, really important too is a balance between storytelling and sales. So how do you approach that balance between storytelling and sales in your content creation process, especially when it comes to the tactics like landing pages and social media posts?
Well, we do create a lot of landing pages, that's for sure. Really, that's part of the visual storytelling. And I think the balance that's really struck there is in language. There's great significance, obviously, in the visuals that we use because we want to represent who the brand is. But a lot of the times, the visuals are very specific as to what the business has to offer from a personalized angle. So gone are the days of stock images. Right? It's the real people in the business performing the service, showcasing the product. Founders are holding in their hands what they're doing or how they're doing it versus some model that maybe that you've hired and it's been set up with some backlighting and it looks all really, really great. And I love the fact that more founders are showing up in their brands. There's a brand called Truly Skincare, and the founder is like in every story, and she's shown packaging product and putting the product on and telling the story about where her skin journey started and all that. And so, yeah, I think at the end of the day, there's suddenly this consistency in brand narratives. It really starts with the visualization on the landing page itself. So product or service, there's a human there. It's not just sitting there stagnating. And then when it comes to the copy itself, it's really an introduction from a needs basis, right? I see you, you have a need. I'm here to solve that problem. Here's how. And a lot of the times it's the story of the brand and why that need popped up in the first place. You know, it's listing out some of those pain points and talking about maybe that person's lifestyle and then how the brand fits into solving that problem. And I noticed landing pages have a far higher conversion as a result of that because they're gated content. Someone's going to the landing page. There's nothing distracting as it would on a large website. And I can get so much more specific about the way that I tell that story and who's showing up within that story, you know, whether it's the brand founder or, a staff member or so forth, or maybe it's a client, a customer who's had just an incredible experience. And maybe the customer shines, right? They're the landing page. It's their story. It's the impact that the product or service has made on their lives. And I think it really, in touching on even just customer success stories, you can share an example of your business significantly improving its sales by featuring client success stories or testimonials in its marketing materials. And again, these materials are all part of marketing, right? They all have various elements that need to work together, whether it's the hook or the body copy or the visuals or your call to action, etc. But the storytelling aspect there is just the humanization of the brand from the perspective of where did this brand start? Why is it trying to meet this need? How has it met that need? And here's how its impact has kind of made its ripple effects, right, on its clients, et cetera. So yeah, there is definitely a balance. I mean, a lot of people quote the 80-20 rule where it's like 80% is meant to be all about storytelling and that authenticity and fun and engaging, et cetera. And then the 20% is meant to be all about the sale. But I find a lot of the times the storytelling really ends up making the sale at the end of the day. It's been few times where I felt storytelling has failed, just in general. For some reason, it ends up being the sale. It sells everything.
Question for you. What is something that helps to build reputation, increase demand for your expertise, expand your network, increase your credibility, increase relevance, allows you to take better control of your message and perception, helps you to get more recognized, and is the most trusted form of marketing out there? It's public relations. And I know if you're listening to this show, it means that you are ripe and ready to unlock the next version of your business. I also know that you probably don't have an extra $30,000 sitting around to hire an expert agency that can do this for you. What if I had a simple solution that could help you achieve all of the above without the hefty price tag? What if I told you that you could have a custom world-class PR strategy built for you in a day with all the necessary videos to show you how to implement and integrate the strategy into your everyday business function? How would you feel? Well, I've got some great news for you. I have created the ultimate VIP day that allows you to play a bigger game with the guidance of a veteran publicist who will create your custom strategy with a vetted media list, creative pitch templates, and all the PR fixings you need to get way more recognition for yourself and your business. And it is a simple solution that you and your team can implement the next day. I promise you this has been done by dozens already with some incredible results. It is called the VIP Day. It's that simple. It is the We Wild Women VIP Day. If you go to wewildwomen.com/VIP Day to learn more, you can either apply or you can reach out to me on Instagram at Renee_Warren to learn more about the VIP Day and how this can help you and your brand unlock the next level. That's wewildwomen.com/VIP Day. I can't tell you how many times I've made good friends on Instagram, and I've never met them before in my life. But I have a sense of who these people are because they just show up and they do their thing. There's a woman, I'm going to open up her Instagram right now because I forget her handle, but I have to give her a shout out because she's just the loveliest person ever. There it is, Shelby Rollins. Shout out Shelby Rollins, MV. She's a vocal coach. So, she's got a few thousand followers, but she shows up, which shocks me because given the content she shares, she teaches people how to be a better singer and she gives away all of her good stuff for free. She shoots, I don't know how many reels a week, and I'm shocked that she doesn't have more followers. And anyway, I don't know how. She's like one of those Instagram accounts that was like in my discovery page, and I started following her. I'm like, oh, this is fascinating content. And then we just started chatting back and forth. And then she got my husband's book. And now we're like in the DMs. And she's like, I want to book you for your VIP day. I'm just not there yet. But it was all the friendship with no sales intention. I never even thought like she'd be a customer. I was like, I just like this woman. And all of a sudden now she's like, yeah, I want to book you for a VIP day. It had nothing to do with business. She saw online what I did, obviously, and she watched some of my content. So she's like, okay, this girl knows what she's talking about. And here's the reality is if you're doing a good job at just being yourself authentically online, you don't even have to try to make the sale because you position yourself as the expert in the space, share your knowledge, give away all the good stuff, and then be their friends. Support them, be their cheerleaders. And then they just slide into your DMs and then they book a call and all of a sudden they're a customer.
And it's very interesting because when we are ourselves, oftentimes we use our own voice as part of that. And your voice is really the articulation of your personality. People fall in love with personality, right? And you can clue into that to a certain extent in the way that you type something, or if there's tense or emphasis, in the way that you might write a response back in your DMs. And I can speak to quite a few times where I've inadvertently landed an opportunity because of my diplomacy or my empathy or my ability to go, wow, I'm so sorry to hear that, and just be a friend in that moment. And the person turns around and goes, you're really nice. Like, it's unexpected. Or, you're really listening in this moment. And I really needed somebody to listen. I think sometimes with brands, we've lost this ability to kind of hit those relationship touch points, especially when it comes to people even just messaging us. I've seen these auto DMs with some larger brands where, you can tell the robot is functioning and there isn't someone responding and saying, oh, hi, Shelly. Oh, hi, Amber. And, I noticed on your profile that you're into dogs. I am too. Guess what? I have a St. Bernard Pyrenees. We should have a play date. And just being ourselves in that way. And that's what I do. A lot of the times I send a voice message and I look to things that I can relate to that person with. And guess what? They open right up. It's like watching a flower bloom or blossom. And if we look at how things were done in the past, even prior to like Industrial Revolution times, people had conversations. They built connection. And you got to know your cobbler and your baker and the pumpkin guy. And you went to that person very specifically because, as you said prior, like, no trust, right? And there is that personality. We fall in love with people's personalities, right? And that needs to be a huge part of how brands operate, especially small brands. Small brands can't afford to hide behind the camera. I'm a huge advocate, and I tell my clients all the time, don't respond with a text, respond with a voice note. There's so much more power packed into that.
Oh, I mean, we could totally go on a tangent on that because right now it's 50-50 with the voice notes. I am an advocate for short voice notes that are not very long. I cannot handle a 60-second voice note because there are several things that come in that time. Send me like 2 or 3 different voice notes, but don't send me a lot. But I agree with you in all of this. And I do want to ask you a question about this mindset thing too. So like part of the series and Master Your Marketing Mindset is really, and especially doing it for the month of October, is to challenge people to get over the things that scare them the most in their business. And one of which is actually creating the marketing plan for 2024. So for next year, arguably October is even a little too late for this, but most of us haven't started looking that far ahead. When it comes to things like PR and podcast roadshows, is shows aren't taking guests now to the new year, or they might book you in, but you might not get a recording for 6 months and then that episode going live for 9 months. So we fail to kind of think ahead when it comes to mastering your marketing mindset. So for you, the question is all about telling your story. What is the toughest mindset you have to master in order to tell your story?
There's a few. I know a lot of people would toss out fear. Yes, that's definitely part of the roadblock. Fear of acceptance, fear of being seen, fear of being wrong. In my experience, sometimes the greatest issue is realistically the avoidance behavior. It's the procrastination. A lot of business owners procrastinate because they believe that tomorrow is promised.
Oh, that makes me think of the Justin Bieber song, Young Bloods Think There's Always Tomorrow. And I'm not going to start singing this. But anyways, it's so true. We will just start tomorrow. We'll just do this tomorrow. Like a diet, we'll just start tomorrow. 75 hard, you really want to do it? I'll just do it tomorrow. And tomorrow never comes, or it does. And then you'll just start it the next day.
I liken it to I don't know who an award-winning bodybuilder would be right now, or female bodybuilder, but if you look at the pattern in that person's life, there's one thing that's always working for them, and that's willpower. Nothing else comes into play. But the will can get to the point where it is so despondent that it no longer actually operates or works anymore. It can get so lax that that person's despondency becomes their fail-safe in everything. Absolutely everything. Getting up in the morning, getting out the door. It just becomes a set of actions, and it's redundant. And yet you see these people, these achievers. We see these people that are very, very successful, and there's a pattern to their lives, and that's exercising the will. The will gets stronger, just like a muscle gets stronger. And the will actually trumps fear. So when you have willpower and it's working at its full capacity, it will trump procrastination. It will trump the fear of being seen or heard or judged or any of those things, because at this point, yeah, the fear is there. Still very much I get scared all the time. I get anxiety. I suffer from panic. But it's my willpower that then totally just like steamrolls that fear. And I think a lot of people have been lulled into a sense of kind of safety sometimes, that it's okay if you're not ready now, you will be tomorrow. And that's why I say many people wait with the promise of tomorrow. But for many, we don't know when our business is going to maybe come to a grinding halt, or maybe there'll be a family situation, right, that suddenly puts a clunk in the wheel. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So if you don't take action today, what are the chances of tomorrow even being viable or a possibility? And I want to encourage business owners just in general not to base any decision on tomorrow, but to live for today. And today just means that you do one thing really well. It doesn't mean having a huge checklist or goals list. It's oftentimes just, hey, if you don't want to post the reel, at least record the reel's video just to get yourself started. And maybe tomorrow source that audio. And then the next day, load it into your Instagram and review it and edit it, save it as a draft all in place, and then set your goal for Baby Friday. That's the day where I'm going to post that first video. But at least take all those baby steps, because the cumulative effect is going to be success. Yay, I've posted my first reel. I've made it happen. Woohoo. But if you don't record the video and you don't source the audio and you don't put any effort into putting the copy together, guess what? You're not going to do it tomorrow.
Do it today. Okay, one last question before we wrap up. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that to you?
You know, for me, it's the juggle of motherhood and business ownership, and doing it in the most messy, disorganized fashion I possibly can. And yet I'm still able to provide the emotional and financial and physical sustenance to my family and to myself. It's messy. Business is messy. Life is messy. I find that my avoidance of perfection is what really makes me that wild woman. I can live and be myself with no apologies. And my kids love me. My husband loves me. I love myself. I just show up as I am every day, doing my best in that chaos. and it all works out.
I love it. So if people want to go online to follow you, where can they go?
So they can go into Instagram, which is the primary channel that I post on, and they can follow heystorywell.ca. And I also have a personal Instagram called Keeping Up with Hugh, or You. It's a pun, but basically it's my last name. So Keeping Up with Hugh. And that's where I post all my farm stories, everything to do with growing and homesteading. And then heystorywell.ca is the business side, the agency side of things.
I love it. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely to see you, Renee.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time: the best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.